lovely August day. Well, actually, it's not very lovely outside if you're in the Salt Lake area. It's sort of a smoke-filled mess, um, uh, but welcome you to this meeting and appreciate the time that you have so willingly given to be a part of this council and that. To begin with today, since this is the beginning of a new term for several people coming to the council and that, I think it would be of value to have everyone take just a moment and introduce themselves. I will go ahead and start that, and then I will just call upon individuals to introduce yourself as I see you on the screen. Um, and then we'll go through that. Just your name, just share your name and your position, the group that you represent on the council, and anything else that you would like to share would be great. And we'll just go through that. So again, my name is Rick Gaisford. I am the Education Technology Specialist at the Utah State Board of Education, currently serving also as chair of this council. And um, and I sort of represent K-12 education in that. Uh, Tom.
Hey, Tom Cheatham, University of Utah. I'm a professor in the College of Pharmacy. Also, I direct the Center for High Performance Computing on campus. And I'm here. I've been on the council a while, and I kind of represent research, or try to represent research.
And do a good job of that. And we appreciate you being here with us. Michael Shuping.
Good morning, Rick. Michael Shuping. I am the Director of Administration here at UETN.
Thank you. Rich.
Being sure to unmute. Hello, I'm Rich Finlinson. I'm the Director of Communication for UETN.
Thank you. And Leslie Baker.
Hi, I'm Leslie Baker. I'm the Director of the Fulton Library at UVU, and I'm representing the Utah Academic Library Consortium.
And welcome. Appreciate having you here with us. Clint.
Hey everybody, Clint Stevens. I work at Southwest Educational Development Center, Regional Service Center in Cedar City. I represent C4, the statewide technology trainers in K-12.
Thank you. And Denise, we couldn't do this meeting without you, so if you just take a moment to introduce yourself.
I would be happy to. Denise Elwood. I'm admin assistant for UETN.
Thank you. And Deanna. Or is it Diana Simmons?
Oh, yes, I guess I'm on a new, I'm starting my second term. I thought I've been here for a while. So yes, I'm with BYU Broadcasting and I'm representing public television.
Thank you. And Jason Strait.
Jason Strait, I'm the Director at Central Utah Educational Services, and I'm representing the 4 REISs, the Regional Education Service Agencies in Utah.
Thank you, Jason. And Jennifer Summers.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jennifer Summers, new to the council, and I am Director of Government Affairs for Lumen, formerly CenturyLink, and I'm representing Urban Telecom.
Thank you. Great to have you with us. Katie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Garrett with Utah Education and Telehealth Network, and I oversee our media services.
Thank you. And Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Cole, and I'm with Utah Education and Telehealth Network, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you. Laura.
I'm Laura Hunter. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for UETN. Welcome.
Thank you. Scott.
I'm Scott McCombs, Director of IT for Canyon School District. I represent K through 12 directors of IT.
Thank you. And Tony.
Tony Pellegrini, Southern Utah University, Department Chair for Teacher Education, and represent K-12 teachers.
Thank you. And Brianna.
Hi, I'm Brianna Brazel. I'm with Mortensen Construction. I run our workforce development programming, so working with folks in the school system to get into the construction trades.
Excellent. Thank you. Jerome.
Oh, good morning. I'm Jerome Browning with UETN. I'm the state E-rate coordinator for UETN in the state.
Thank you. Lisa.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Coney, the UETN Community Partnerships Manager.
Thank you. RC.
Hello, everyone. RC Callahan, Executive Director of WSU Online, and I'm definitely taking advantage of Dress Down Friday, so that's why I have the video off. I'm working remotely, but I represent Canvas admins and distance education.
Do appreciate your being with us in that. And I think that, except for the man behind the curtain, Tim, why don't you say hi?
Hello, my name is Tim Jennings Hill. I am a video operations tier 1 support for UEN. And yes, I am the man behind the curtain, muting people when problems occur.
Well, do appreciate that, and appreciate all your efforts to make sure that the meeting runs so smoothly when we're together. That is our introductions. We do have minutes to approve from the previous meeting, which was held on June 4th. Hopefully, you've had a chance to review those minutes, and I would entertain a motion or accept a motion to approve the minutes from June 4th.
This is RC Callahan. I put forward the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Rick, sorry.
Hey, Rick, we're not hearing you.
Well, because the lovely mute button happened to get in the way. Well, okay, hearing no discussion then, and we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Well, that brings us to the next item, which is an action item, and we need to, as a body, choose someone to be the chair of the advisory council and a vice chair of the advisory council. And I've been serving as chair in that, and I've asked Laura if she would like to take the lead on this particular item. Laura, so I'll turn it to you. See if you can figure out a way, if we can figure this out.
Sounds good. So I think you saw from the materials, the chair and vice chair serve 4-year terms that are staggered. Rick has very kindly offered to have his term renewed if that's the will of the group. And the council members, you're the ones that decide who the chair and vice chair are. The only other guidance that we've received from the board is that they usually prefer that the chair and vice chair represent different sides of UETN service, so higher ed and public ed, or education and libraries. So if you just want to keep that in mind. And my recommendation is that we start with nominations for chair, and then the vice chair could be handled separately. So are there any nominations for chair?
This is Clint Stevens. I nominate Rick Gaseford to serve as chairman of the advisory council.
Is there a second?
Yes, Tom, I second that nomination.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of, I'm sorry, Clint, you said it as a nomination. Is it also a motion?
Yes, I'd like to motion that as well.
Okay. All those in favor of Rick Gaisford serving another term as chair, could you signal by either waving or saying something?
Aye.
Aye.
That seems pretty unanimous. All those opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. And Rick, I talked to Rick earlier, so I know that he's not opposed to that, or we wouldn't have forced him into it. Rick, do you want to take over for selection of the vice chair?
Yes, I can do that. Well, thank you all. I appreciate your confidence and that I've enjoyed working with this group, and I'm happy to do that. You certainly feel free to reach out to me at any time. Are there any nominations or those interested that would be willing as serving as vice chair? Let me just, as chair and vice chair, the staff does such a wonderful job at UEN that it they help put together, they bring together the information items that we need, or any action items that might need to be taken care of. Typically, as a chair or vice chair, um, it's a few emails or maybe even a phone call to go over the agenda prior to the meeting, and then you're also to attend the UEN board meeting to represent the advisory council at their meetings. There's always an opportunity to report out the what goes on in this meeting out to the board, and that. So those are the main commitments. It's a low time commitment, a few emails, maybe a few phone calls, but all very short. And I would entertain any nominations for vice chair. One can certainly nominate themselves as well. But I'll jump all at the same time. I will say that I did have someone reach out to me, but they are not on the call today, that they might be interested. They would be interested in being vice chair, but with them not being here, I don't feel comfortable nominating them or for the position.
I would nominate Katie Garrett to be the vice chair.
Except I work at UETN, so I cannot.
Oh, you can't? I thought you were the library okay, who's the library?
Thank you for your confidence, but
I got mixed up on the little tic-tac-toe here with video chairs, Who is it that represented the libraries?
I represent the academic libraries.
Okay, so I will nominate Leslie Baker.
Is there a second to that nomination?
I'd be happy to second that nomination. Leslie, if you're willing.
That would be the next question. Leslie, would you be willing?
I would be willing.
Well, excellent. Are there any other nominations?
I will then make a motion to have the board approve Leslie as the vice chair.
Thank you for that motion. I'm assuming that second would follow that was made for the nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Then all in favor of appointing Leslie Baker as the vice chair of the UEN Advisory Council, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, Leslie. It'll be a pleasure to work with you. And with that, action item taken out, we'll now move into our discussion items. Our first discussion item will be the back to school campaign that UEN is launching. And Katie, I believe you're going to take the lead on that.
I am. Thank you. Let me get my screen shared. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. Well, it snuck up on us. I don't know if it snuck up on all of you, but back to school is right around the corner. So with that, we'd like to give you a preview of what we'll be sharing as kind of our back to school campaign this school year. So what we're calling this is UEN's Digital Locker, and inviting educators to open up UEN's Digital Locker and find the resources that are most helpful for them. To the next. So I'm going to give you a visual cue throughout this presentation of where I'd like some feedback. We're still in development with this campaign and of the resources, so your feedback is very much appreciated. To give a little bit of background with where we're going, we're trying to kind of feel out and take the temperature of where we're at with our teachers, and our guess is that many are still exhausted from last school year and maybe have catching up to do with students and still have a lot on their plate. So we're focusing this on giving teachers just what they need and allowing them to self-select what they need. Based on the success of our teacher toolbox that we've had in the past, where we have a very large website at uen.org. There's so much there and there's so many great things there. But one of the things that we hear is, how can I find it all? And I don't have time to look through it all. So one of the things that we're aiming to do with this is to curate a list of resources based on just what teachers need. So let's see. Yeah, it's educator driven. This will begin on August 15th. I know there's a lot of varied school start dates throughout the year. And one of the ideas that we were looking at of how to present this information, we got inspired by Google. And this is the YouTube help section, but liked how they display topics, a lot of different topics in a really easy, straightforward way. So when you're looking through the help topics on Google site, you can click on just one thing. I need to do this. I need to fix a problem. Here's the resources that could help you fix a problem. So this is just a little screencast that's kind of walking through and giving you a preview of what that looks like. Like I said, we're still in development, so we don't have our actual site to show quite yet. Going to the next one. Okay, here's your cue. So in your positions of which schools or institutions or libraries, what are some of the needs that you're seeing and from those that you work with? Are we on base with thinking that we need to simplify?
I think that I would agree with that. And I think your approach of, easily accessible, especially, short, just in time sort of training clips and questions and, how to's kind of would be, I think, really beneficial for teachers right now.
Great, thank you.
I really like the concept, Katie, that you've, that sort of that easy menu of I need to find something. I think that would be just that kind of an interface. I think would be really, could be really useful. I think that obviously some of the big buckets that we would need to fill would be, Canvas, because so many are out there using it. So I need help with Canvas, and I need, maybe we can hit those top things that a lot of our tech support people are dealing with, so that those things can be, they know how to get to those kinds of things. I think that'd be a great topic. I just think of you know, just finding good resources. So probably something on e-media and the interface there.
Thank you. Anything else before Rick actually provides a perfect segue to the next preview is, here's our list of topics that we have so far. There's about 10 here. So this would be the drop down. I need to get teaching ideas. I need to continue blended learning practices. What are your thoughts of this list? Are we, I think Canvas would fit in that blended learning practices, but we could maybe make that a little more explicit that that's what it is. Let's see, anything we're missing here or things that you see here that you're like, yes, that's going to be essential this year?
And this is Clint. I know you have a lot of generals there, which is good. One specific need I know that teachers are really struggling with are the resources on the new SEED standards in science.
We're working on that. We have a big
yeah,
project with that.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, because it's a need for sure.
Okay.
Hey, Katie, this is Tiffany, and I agree completely with Clint about the SEED standards. And I would say out of that list that the continued blended learning is a priority in our district and for teachers, and also engaging students and ways that we're doing that. And then that social and emotional wellness would be the top three if I had to say which three on this list, plus the SEED standards. This is a great list. Thank you.
Tiffany, should there be something on here about personalized competency-based learning, PCDL?
Oh, now, Rick, that's such a good question because that's exactly where we're kind of headed next. And sorry, I've got an angry cat with me. Get out. And I think personalized learning, and the other thing is standards-based grading. But you know, we're kind of moving down that road. I might not be as far down that road as other districts, but yeah, individualizing that learning in terms of engaging students. When you add more creativity to my lessons, I'm wondering if that could be a place where you'd say, you know, is it really creativity that we need or ways to demonstrate mastery in individual ways? I don't know if that sentence actually made sense or not, but
no, I think that's
yeah,
actually
Rick, you're right. We're trying to figure out what that looks like too in a blended learning environment.
And the other question I might throw out, at least to those in the K-12 area, what about Portrait of a Graduate with the competencies and the rubrics that are just being released? Is that something that would be of value to maybe start building something into?
I would appreciate that simply because I'm trying to get in front of that as fast as I can too. So
So life is like a bulldozer you're running from, right?
I'm afraid so. That or a cement mixer, I can't decide.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I'll follow up with you all on SEED standards.
Would Nearpod be something like engaging students? Is that where you'd put Nearpod resources?
Yeah, so these are really general categories, and we have like a draft of the individual list, but I wanted to keep it kind of high level for this meeting.
Sure.
And before we move on, I was wondering, Tony, if you would mind just answering this from a perspective of pre-service teachers or teacher education programs. Is this comprehensive, or do you have any recommendations?
Laura, say that one more time.
Yeah, the question is for Tony Pellegrini, just representing the teacher education faculty. I'm wondering if teacher education programs are represented well with this list. And Tony may have had to step away, so we can follow up with him individually.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so next up, after we develop this campaign and resources, is obviously this is going to go across our social channels and you'll be able to find it all there. But one of the challenges that we're facing that I don't think we're alone in this is I think we have an audience that's a bit tired of social media. And so I want to make sure that we're getting these resources to those who need it. So what are the other ideas that you would have for us in helping us get this to who needs it?
I think we're
And
still
by
trying
it
to
being-
figure that out.
Yes.
It's a
Okay.
great
So at
question.
least
It's a
I'm not
great
alone in
question.
this.
Speaking just with my other hat on, I'm the president of USET this year. Our mailing list is about 5,000 teachers strong. We'd certainly love to share out what you guys have to that list.
I think you could share it, and they can share it in their newsletter.
Yeah.
And it might be worthy to consider ways that, a strand at the conference, even in the spring, will still be helpful because these are things that will continue on for a period of time. I think
I didn't put this as a question, but I'm just thinking now. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, one of the others, particularly with, K-12 teachers and that you're looking at would be to make sure that at the September C forum that this is, shared so that they can get that information out, and I would do a real hands-on get in there and have them figure out ways that they could take some of these same questions that you have here and have them do it so that they really leave that knowing that this resource is there right available to them.
And UEN just happens to be hosting C forum in September.
Wonder if we could get on the agenda.
If not,
so
you can do the October one because USBE is going to host that one. So.
Okay.
On both.
I didn't put this question on here, but I'm thinking, what are the ways that we can get the information to you that makes it easy for you to share? Is it like copy and paste this into your newsletter? Is it like one image? How can we make that easy for you to share with your audience?
Like a one-pager kind of thing, just
Okay.
a quick, visual, something that we can push out easily.
And a one-pager with as many graphics as possible. I'm finding that my people are having email fatigue.
Yes.
So we're trying to really move toward that graphic info, graphic kind of look. That's maybe click
Okay.
on. That would be perfect.
Okay. Thank you. Well, if you think of anything or have a specific resource that you think would be great, as always, I hope this email address is something you can always remember because this is how you get a hold of us. So share what suggestions you have with us at resources@uen.org or any of us. You can email us individually, but you'll get a super quick response there. Anything else?
No, I'm just excited to see. I'll be excited to see the final product when it releases here soon.
August 15th. Oh, and I forgot to, I meant to acknowledge the work of Megan McLean. She's doing double duty today. So I'm presenting, this is really her work and I'm sharing it for her.
Well, thank you, Katie. We do appreciate that. And I think we'll all look forward to doing that and help you to share it when it does release. Moving on to our next discussion item, we will have a presentation and some information from Jerome and Kelly on the Home Broadband Initiative. So I will turn it to both of you.
It's actually more Jerome, but I will chime in if needed.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, all right, here we go. Oh, let me share my screen right quick. Hold on. All right, you should be seeing my PowerPoint.
We are seeing your PowerPoint.
First of all, I'm happy to be here today. It's my first time addressing this organization, and I'm happy to be here today. If you don't know me, I am Jerome Browning. I'm the state E-rate coordinator, and if the accent gives me away, I'm actually from Alabama. So I'll keep that accent as much as I can. So what I want to talk to you today about is the emergency connectivity funding program and what steps we are taking here at UETN, or I'm taking here at UETN, to support Utah ECF applicants. And then I'm going to give you a current status on the Utah applicants, and then if there's time, I will do a little questions if you have any. What is the emergency connectivity funding? It was established by the American Rescue Plan of 2021 and signed into law on March the 11th, 2021. And it's in section 7402 if you're interested in that. However, there are a lot of funding sources inside that ARP program, but this was just one of those. It is 7.17 billion nationwide for off-campus equipment and services to support internet access for remote learning needs and to close that homework gap. Schools and libraries are both eligible to participate in the ECF program if they are E-rate eligible. Soon after the ARP came out, or the 7402 came out, the FCC created their report and order, which basically establishes the emergency connectivity funding rules and procedures. And keep in mind, this was a brand new program and it was on a fast-paced track. The window for it opened, for the application process, opened in June 29th, on June 29th, and will close next week on August the 13th. There may be, I'm expecting at least one more window after that, or it could be two, it could be retroactive. In other words, it could go back to March the 20th of last year and provide support for that. Or it could be a proactive, another one going forward. So don't know what that is. It just depends on how much is being used in that first window. Let's see. Was eligible. I'm not going to read all that to you, but generally Wi-Fi hotspots is 100% eligible. It's not subject to the normal E-rate discounts. In other words, on E-rate, which is a totally different program, E-rate, school districts and libraries have a discount, either 80, 90 or something like that, but they have to pay the match. Under ECF, the cost is completely 100% funded, except there's a cap on Wi-Fi hotspots of $250 per device. There's a cap on, and which is new and is kind of one of the more popular areas, is the connected devices, which are laptops and tablets. That includes Chromebooks, by the way. But there is a cap on that of $400 per device, and that's total. That's everything that goes, if there's taxes or anything like that, that all has to be included within that $400 cap. There really isn't a cap on the equipment or any of the other services here, but it is subject to reasonable cost and prices that they in the market. On the eligible services side to that, they're focusing upon commercially available fixed mobile broadband access or internet access that's available. The FCC doesn't set any standards for, in other words, the speed of the network connections that they would get. That is generally up to the school districts and the libraries. They do allow one Wi-Fi hotspot per user or per student or library patron, or one fixed internet connection at a location per one household. In the event that, one other thing that's available is, in the event that there is no commercially available internet access available to the student home, new construction of networks could be eligible. And again, this is all 100% covered underneath ECF. But the basic premise underneath ECF is that unmet need. And that's one of the struggling points of the program that I work with on a daily basis. And that is, if not for ECF fundings, the student would not have had a connected device that is sufficient to engage in remote learning. If not for ECF funding, a student would otherwise not have had a broadband connection that is sufficient to engage in remote learning. And then a combination of those two. This need, this unmet need is again, a basic premise of the ECF program, must be identified and met at the point of purchase and the invoice to USAC. A lot of them are out there now estimating, which is fine, and estimations are allowed up until that point. So that is one of the sticking, kind of a roadblock that a lot of the school districts and libraries are facing right now, but they are working at it, and I'll give you a status on that in a minute. So I'll remind you that ECF and that unmet need must pertain to the students, teachers, or library patrons. Okay. The emergency connectivity funding is not equal to E-rate. I've had several people call, well, E-rate does this. Can we do that? No, E-rate is not the same as ECF, and that's one of the common misconceptions I get throughout the day. What we have done as far as UETN support is I have basically done an email campaign with our listservs. As early as March the 16th, 2020, I started sending out emails to the listservs introducing ECF and asking for comments, and then also providing information. And many of you may have been receiving some of those emails. So I want to make sure that all of our users or all of our applicants that are participating out into the state, whether they're part of UETN's network or not, if they're eligible, I wanted to make sure they got the message about ECF because it is something new and it could provide some very important resources for their students. And I'll continue to provide those updates even after the window closes because there'll be another window. I provided at least 7 Zoom training sessions dedicated to ECF. I've done recordings and made presentations available. I've directed applicants to multiple FCC and USAC events. Several individual consults on a daily basis almost. I have opened, I have an open office hours that are basically Zoom, and it's a Zoom window I keep open generally all day long, but I have dedicated 30+ hours to ECF so far, and I have a few more to go. I have offered participation in ECF. Our committee basically had a little subcommittee. We decided that we would try to help the school districts and libraries as much as we could. So we offered a consortia application, this in the same way we did with the other E-rate program. And we offered it to schools and school districts and libraries. Several school districts originally signed up for it, but then after they started reviewing everything, they decided that they wanted to do it on their own. Of course, with my assistance, and that's totally fine. I'm all right with that. We had several libraries sign up for the consortia, and right now we have 10 remaining, and I am working on that consortia application process as we speak. And that deadline to file is on August 13th. That's just a reminder to me. All right, so currently the ECF application process shows that we have 25 ECF applications listed. 7 of them are complete and certified. They have requested over $2 million in requests, and they are generally asking for Chromebooks, Wi-Fi hotspots, and bus Wi-Fi. One thing about the ECF program in USAC and the SEC is they are supposed to be providing data and statistics about all the applications on ECF across the nation, but they haven't gotten there yet. So as soon as they get there and I can be able to pull the information through, I'll share that as quickly as possible. There are 18 applications that are in incomplete process. In other words, they've started it, but they've not completed it yet. And there's no real data to come from that until they hit that certification. So I do know that there are 17 public school districts and 4 other charter independent schools that have applied. And with that, I know that was short. So if there's any questions, I'm open to that.
Thank you, Jerome. I know you're working really hard. I see a lot of the messages that Jerome has been sending and encouraging, and districts to take advantage of this, because this is really a great opportunity. I mean, particularly to get devices for students. You know, that qualify in that, because they can get the device and the connectivity, the home connectivity, all taken care of.
So I'm working hard, and I've tried to explore all the communications channels that I could possibly get out to all the schools and libraries. I'm working with the state library, Liz Gavitus, and trying to get the libraries involved. And again, with that consortia, I'm basically having to do mostly all of the work that they would normally do if they were doing it on their own, which, you know, that's what my job is about. So another thing, and I know I kind of didn't mean to overlook it, but they're on another separate program that's not part of the ARP, is the uh, uh, the EBB program. We start talking in acronyms, and I can't remember what the acronym stands for all the time. But anyway, there's the EBB program where they were getting like $50 uh, uh, per month at the home, and that's a separate program. And I've been so busy with ECF that I have not specifically focused on EBB. So, Kelly, do you have any information you can add on that? Because I know you've been working with that as well. And
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm happy to
Oh,
add to that.
we've had somebody else. Oh yeah, there's.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can't. Katie's been on that as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Jerome, Katie, Rich, and I have been meeting every other week just to talk about the emergency broadband benefit. And it is open to everybody, not just students, not just as long as you have an economic need. And so what we've been doing is just working with Katie on the social media channels. Rich's team has helped us with some of the collateral materials. We sent out some posters to all the libraries around the state. Katie's been doing pretty regular Facebook campaigns to promote that effort. So we've just been kind of regrouping every couple of weeks to just brainstorm ways to get the word out on the emergency broadband benefit. And so that program is for home internet service, and it allows, it provides basically a $50 supplement to service. So that's a really big deal, and we're hoping that we get really good numbers for it, first of all, but that it's a temporary program, but we'd love to see something like that be more permanent to meet some of the broadband needs going forward. And I guess the one thing I would ask to this group is if there are channels that you think that we should be sending the information out on. I know like Rich also has been putting it out on our newsletter, and even they did a really nice bilingual Spanish English newsletter that went out, and we can provide all sorts of collateral materials both in English and in Spanish. And so if there's if you have any other thoughts, you can contact me directly, or Katie, or Rich, or Jerome, or if you have thoughts on this call, that would be great too. But we're just trying to really get the word out. And for example, if you had maybe you had a family that the district didn't apply for the ECF, they could still apply on their own for the EBB and still get some help with the services. So there's a couple of different ways to do this right now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, the difference between ECF is that in EBB is the schools and libraries are the owners of the equipment in the ECF program. And in EBB, the parent or the home is the owner of the equipment. So thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Jerome. Yes, and when the district owns that equipment, you know, I mean, they're simply able to send school resources home, and they also can provide filtered content as well. So there's some real advantages.
Yeah, that is also a requirement. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's but that's a great presentation. If you are in a position that you can share information, or you're talking to anyone, you know, to anyone, just have them reach out to Jerome or Kelly if they need additional information. I know the deadline is fast approaching now, but
Absolutely.
and hopefully there will be future windows. But I have a sense that from what I'm hearing from colleagues across the country, and that I think most of this money will go through in this first round.
I do know of several school districts who are applying for 60,000 or more Chromebooks out there. So, and that put in my data, so because it's not been completed yet. So I know that's one district, and I know there's many other districts that are going to be applying for that or more. So
yeah, some of them are looking at it as a way, I think, to refresh their equipment. I mean, it will create a bubble down the road, but at least for the next few years, they'll have good equipment. So, especially if they had anything that was aging.
sure.
So,
if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll put my email in the chat just in case.
Okay. Our next presentation is a discussion item is 3.3 Native American Film School or Film Festival. Sorry. And Lisa Coney will be leading us in this.
Good morning. I am trying to, I'm on vacation, and so the broadband is a little limited. So I'm not going to put my video on, but can you all see the website right now?
Yes.
I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So
And there's a link to that in the agenda, I believe. So
okay. Good. Well, so a few months ago, BYU created some American Indian resources for the BYU Arts Partnership created some resources, and they wanted to, their curriculum, they wanted to share them with teachers, and they knew right where to go. They came to UEN and they said, we want to share them on the website. We know you have a rich American Indian heritage resource page, which is the page that I'm showing you right now. And we were happy to do that. And here are their resources. But in looking at this page, many of the resources are outdated, and admittedly so, from the Utah Division of History. And so the things that we've talked about, we created a committee, a nice working group with USBE, Robert Austin, who is the Social Studies Curriculum Director, also Chuck Foster, who's the Native American Title VI Coordinator with USBE, the Utah History Department, BYU Arts Partnership, and UEN, of course. This working group has been amazing to help us reframe this page. And I wanted to give you a little history about the page as well, and why the film festival is on top. My partnership work really started with the Native American community deeply about a decade ago with the UEN American Indian Film Festival, with the University of Utah's education, the higher ed education department. And we worked together to create a film festival. And if you have not attended, if you've not seen what we've done over the last decade, it's quite amazing. I've shared films mostly from our broadcast across every higher ed institution. I've been down to the Paiute Nation and in Cedar City, and I've also really done a lot of work with, is that the computer? Oh, sorry, I'm not also in my own home, and the phone is ringing. So with Dixie and all of these film festivals have recently, we've screened them at the Governor's Native American Summit. I've been on their planning committee for close to a decade as well. And they every year want to share UEN's films. And then that is the leverage that we take moving on to November, where these are screened all month long at all the different higher ed institutions. So last year, because everything was virtual, this is at the top so that people could also look and see the films, and then we recorded several of the discussions that we had with the panelists. So that was at the top of the page, and then we've had lots of general information, and you can all preview the page. But when the BYU Arts Partnership came to us with this curriculum, we put it on our page, and they said, you know, the page is great, thank you, but it needs a little updating. And I'm calling that reframing. And I used the whole idea of this working group where we invited also stakeholders and multiple entities to come together to give us feedback. And I want to share with you our new page that came out of all of this work. And it's again the Native American Indian resource page, where we have listened to what do people want. We had over 300 teachers take a survey, and they said they wanted authentic resources from Native created. They also said that their default was teachers pay teachers, and so we wanted to make sure that that was avoided. And we've come up with what we think based on feedback. Stakeholders included numerous teachers who were both Native teachers and teachers who teach in Native communities, as well as the Utah Division of Indian Affairs Executive Director, obviously Chuck Foster, and other Title VI coordinators from across the state to really help us create what we think is definitely not complete by any means, but through this group, I created a template to see how we can create pages that are current and accurate and culturally appropriate, because that's what we heard was needed and wanted. And the working group has committed to meeting quarterly to go through the previous page, the American Indian Heritage Resource page from UEN, which will be archived, and slowly bring back and vet the most appropriate, the most accurate, and the most relevant resources from that page. So this new page going forward will have all 8 tribal nations, and it's in development still. We're hoping to launch it as school starts, but closer to the end of the month. So it'll have an image, and then it'll have a little sentence that talks about the image. So like the Navajo wedding basket or Paiute drumming, and it'll just have a sentence of information with the images at the top. And then this is what the main page will be. On the left-hand side here, right now we only have one, but this is going to be a highlights and news section. This is where we'll also promote FNX. And having FNX broadcast across the state was a result of a lot of work and listening to the communities. And the feedback that I get regularly is phenomenal from different folks that I meet. For instance, the USBE hired a curator for us. Robert Austin put money forth to hire a curator, a native young man. His name is Jordan Allison. And when I met him, he said, "Oh, my grandma, she lives down, I'm not sure if it's Monument Valley, but she watches FNX regularly, and she's always telling me about things that she sees on there." So it's stories like that that make me really proud that FNX is something that UEN does. And I'm just going to throw another little story in there about FNX. As I sit on the committee for the Utah Governor's Native American Summit happening as we speak, in one of the meetings, they were talking about sponsorships, and the San Manuel tribe that pays for FNX also gave a very large sum of money to the Utah Governor's Native American Summit for a sponsorship. And it was because of the discussion that James Toledo, the program director at Utah Division of Indian Affairs, said, you know, we've worked with UEN for a very long time, and they broadcast FNX and across the state. And so San Manuel tribe was really happy to sponsor the summit this year. So great partnership happening all the time. But getting back to the page, so this will disappear tomorrow, but we'll have a news and highlight on the left, and then we'll have 4 different areas, and starting with the Utah tribes, and there are 8 tribes. These will each link to the tribal website if they have them. This map will be interactive. And because most people in the state, including myself, have trouble remembering all 8 tribal nations, but it is really important that Utahns especially recognize that there are not 5, but there are 8. We've come across a resource, how to remember them, and Katie's team jumped right on board and helped us film this visual lesson and this visual tool on how to remember them, and that will also be on this page. I'm really excited about that, and I think I said, but that map is going to be interactive too. And we're working with Greg Smoke with I think he's with the Western Life Center, and he's got some really amazing language maps that are coming up, and those are going to be there. In our educator resources, we again will link to tribe information and lessons. But what we heard from teachers and in our stakeholders meeting, and that you all were talking, Clint was talking about standards. Teachers want direct lessons and links to standards. So that is something that we have heard and we are going to add. And again, we're not like putting a million things here. Everything will be vetted. And also Robert Austin at USBE said he will add some additional funds to help teachers as lesson plans come about, connect them to the standards and share them here. And again, we are also hoping that teachers will be encouraged to start using eMedia open author tool and share their resources or share their lessons that they come up with. And then we have some general topics and issues that we are just slowly introducing, and we are curating to make sure that it's not overwhelming. And the student and parent resource pages are also in development, and they're much smaller. They're similar to the educator resources, but the one thing that I wanted to let you know that the reason that we have the parent resources page is because we heard, and it was important for teachers and some of the Native American folks on our team, that parents, when they're asked to go to a school and give a presentation about their own tribe, about being Native American, that they have resources that help them feel comfortable. And so we created a page for them to have resources. This events page, this events link is not going to be here, but anyway, that is a really quick rundown of what we've got going. And I would love your feedback. I'm going to put the preview page, the link in the chat. And anybody want to add things right now? I would love to hear your feedback. And then please email me feedback as you have ideas, as things pop into your head. But we really have taken a design thinking approach. I've created a 7-step template of listening, making sure things are accurate and relevant and current information. One of the big things that the Native folks are concerned about is that people think of them as a past people and not as a present, active and vibrant people, modern people as well. So I'm going to stop sharing, put that in the chat, and please feel free to chime in.
Okay. Comments, questions, suggestions for Lisa? I really like the page you put together. I think it's simple but very easy to get to the information.
And I really want to acknowledge Jessica Anderson's work. She's really, she's been part of this working group, and what here come together and really happens. It's been stunning. It's been a little challenging to get images right now, but that is our next step, is to make sure that the images are modern and relevant, and I'm part of that. Oh, great, Tiffany, thank you. And please feel free, I put the preview in the chat, feel free to go through and make comments as that happens. And they're also, so right now, as I am speaking to you all, I'll just quickly add that we are showing the 3 films that we're planning to do in November up at the summit. It's at UVU right now. And also Jordan Allison that I mentioned, that I've been working closely with to develop this page. He's the curator that that is part of this group. He is presenting the page at the summit and getting feedback as well from folks up there before we go live.
Well, excellent. Appreciate the presentation and the information. And again, if you have any further comments or suggestions for Lisa, just reach out to her. Thank you, Lisa. We'll now move on to our committee reports. I don't think we have, I just closed off my agenda, which is not what I wanted to do. I don't see Jason from the USHE Teaching Technologies Council here online with us. But Clint, anything you'd like to share about C-Forum? And Scott, you're on deck. If there's anything you'd like to share about the TCC group.
Thanks, Rick. Haven't met with the they haven't met since April. So no reports out from the meetings. As Rick and I were discussing earlier, Justin Brooksby at UEN's in charge of organizing all the meetings, and we're just looking at locations and dates for the coming year. So if anyone wants to host on November 5th, private companies, whoever, we're kind of a mobile group. Hopefully we can be a mobile group this year. So UEN in September, USBE in October, Davis School District in December, Q's at Juab School District will be in January, Canyons, February. We're all going to meet at the USEC conference in March, and then in conjunction with Iron County SEDC, where I work, we'll be hosting the April meeting. And I think we're going to maybe try to do an ed camp for Southern Utah Ed Camp the day after that, if it works out. So.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Good to know that that group is still going. Laura, you've got to feel good about that. It's going on what, 21 years now?
It's a great group, and it keeps growing. The first meeting I went to, there were about 20 people, and the last one there's 70-ish. So it's a big group, and it's growing, and it's good. It's a good thing.
Well, thank you. Scott, anything you'd like to share about TCC?
I don't know that I have anything to share about TCC, do I?
They are going to meet in October. Hopefully, and it's right now scheduled for in-person even.
It would be great if we can have it be in person, right?
That's the plan.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Let's do it.
I think and that. So those are our committee reports. Laura, you have
Rick, is that going to be in Murray, or what's the location?
The TCC meeting?
TCC, yeah.
It will be in Nebo School District.
Nebo, great.
Yeah, it will be at
Good
the
spot.
Nebo Summit Center, where we've met before. October 7th is the date. Scott, I'll be getting back with you and the rest of the committee to put together the agenda here in a few weeks.
Sounds great.
I'm sure we will have more than enough things to discuss.
I'm sure you're right.
So, and that. Moving on to our broadcast update, Laura, there's a few moments that you can take on this, and maybe if you'll just also just drop in and do the EDI working group.
That sounds great. So just a reminder, those of you that are on the advisory council also serve as the community advisory council for our public broadcast station, KUEN. So you'll see broadcast information on the agenda, and we welcome your input on the programming choices and the categories of things that we're offering. So you'll see in the attachment, it's not a pretty document, it's just a very plain document, because these are working copies that we use to decide what promotions we'll be doing throughout the coming months. So attached in the materials, you'll see the August highlights and the September highlights, and we welcome any feedback that you have about that. And then the second item that Rick asked me to move to is the EDI Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Working Group. So a few months ago, with the board's direction, we created a working group of some staff members and some members of the community. That group, and mostly staff across our building, so including KUER Public Radio and PBS Utah, just completed the 21-day challenge that was done by the YWCA of Utah. And then the other thing to report is there's an active group with Governor Cox's administrative cabinet about equity and diversity, and they had a meeting just a couple of days ago where different state agencies and departments were invited to share the equity work that they've been doing lately. So we shared the results of the 21-day challenge and how it led to a lot of internal conversations with staff and that kind of thing. It's my understanding that that group is planning a 21-day challenge for state employees that will be starting soon, and it'll start with leaders of the different executive level branches, and I think other employees eventually. And then the third thing on EDI to point out, a few months ago, we had an article there that the Riley Institute at Furman University in South Carolina was hosting the very first diversity class of their Public Media Diversity Leaders Initiative. So the Riley Institute has done diversity training for years with usually people in government and corporate roles, and just opened the very first cohort for people who are leaders in public media. And that has been a summer-long effort, but our cohort just completed. And so you'll see an updated link there with the information that all of us, there were 30 or so of us that completed, and we have been named Diversity Fellows from the Riley Institute. So you can read more about that. It was a really valuable experience, especially communicating with colleagues across the country, and in light of all of the discussions lately about critical race theory and just the many ways that equity and diversity and inclusion are top of mind for a lot of our staff and for a lot of the people that we serve. So those are the two updates. If you have any feedback, I think you all know how to reach me.
Yes, thank you, Laura. And you might want to check that link. I clicked on it and it gave me an error message to the Furman University page. So I'll let you check on that one. And did you want to add anything, or is it maybe, and Katie is still on, anything on the recent video productions that are being broadcast nationally? I think that would be a good update. We've got just a couple minutes here still.
If you want to go ahead and just check those out on your own, I think what we've got linked is our Camp TV series that we had a grant to work with other public media stations on, but also partner with those in our community. We worked with the Ogden Nature Center and 1520 Arts. So they're fun videos, and the series, I believe, may have wrapped up, but you can also watch at uen.org/camptv.
Okay. So this brings us to our roundtable item, and this is an opportunity for us to share a little bit about what's going on with your various groups in that. I'd like everybody to take a moment, if they can, just to think of a topic of choice, something that you might want to share. Maybe that's something about a back-to-school priority, but just something that you would like others to know about in your area. I'm not going to, we'll just open it up here in a second. I'll go ahead and start. I have actually some really good news. This happened yesterday at the board meeting. The State Board of Education approved using some funding from ESSER funding 2 funding, approved a 2-year contract extension for Scribble, which is it's a phenomenal tool. It really is. It's a tool for helping students to really manage all the minutia of doing research and writing. We've had it for the last year. We sort of ramped up through the fall, and then the middle of a COVID year, it was awfully a challenge to get teachers to try new things. But we still had well over 1,000 teachers and 10,000 students that have already used the program to some phenomenal reviews. What a student can do is they can take in all of their articles and create their own personal library. They can then mark those articles up. They can comment on the articles. The teacher can comment can interact with the students in the program so that they can give feedback and create feedback loops with students on what they're doing and how they're doing on the research process. It gives the instructor the ability to see where students are at in the process of an assignment on a research paper and that, with some quick dashboards. But it's really a really phenomenal program, and we were pleasantly surprised that the board unanimously approved that extension. Of course, Laura, that means that we'll be coming and talking about what happens after 2 years, but now we've got some time to make, really test this out. We'll be going to C-Forum, hopefully, and in this next month, and be doing some training. There'll be a lot of training that we've also paid for the training, but we'll also use our network and resources to be able to provide training. But I think it'll be a great a great tool to help students to be able to manage research and writing, but also I think it's a great tool, to really help students with information literacy and being able to um, better be able to, determine fact from fiction, um, and to be able to look at credible resources. It'll tie in so nicely with the resources that we have in eMedia and in the Utah Online Library. Um, just some really great opportunities there. So that's my item for the roundtable. Others?
Rick, it's Laura. If I could jump in. That link is fixed now. Thanks for letting me know. But before we leave, I wanted to make sure you heard some good news from Tom Cheatham, who's one of the advisory council members, about a recent NSF grant that he's co-PI on, and it's for research computing. So there's a link to the information about that. But Tom, I wanted to see if you wanted to add anything about it.
I wasn't going to talk about it, but I will. I've been for a while now the chair of what's called the Campus Research Computing Consortium, which is a network of professionals who help kind of serve as the interface between researchers and computing infrastructure. And we're trying to raise awareness that these people are really important to help the growing research we're seeing on all our campuses into new domains and new areas and new technologies. We used to be all about high performance computing, but now it's much broader than that, everything beyond the desktop as far as supporting researchers. And so we were lucky to win a pilot award for a cyber infrastructure center of excellence from the National Science Foundation, which will extend some of those activities, such as developing a capabilities model or maturity model, which we've already done. We're in our second iteration of that, allows you to kind of rank yourself relative to your peers across very detailed aspects of how you support researchers and researchers. And we talk about it in terms of the facings. There's a researcher facing, there's systems facing, which like systems administrators, there's stakeholder and policy facing. We're really trying to get support for these efforts on campuses, which really are not supported as well as, for example, UEN is or Central IT is. And we're definitely distinct from Central IT in terms of how we provide services. So any questions, ask me about it.
Congratulations. That's really good news.
Yes, thank you. And congratulations, Tom. Others that would like to share? Certainly, there must be some things going on in libraries, academic libraries, some of those other areas that we haven't talked about.
Well, this is Tiffany from Salt Lake, and I just want to thank everybody at UEN for your Canvas support and for your professional development support. You are just going out of the way, as always, to help us kick off our school year. And as we keep working toward blended learning, that ongoing Canvas piece is just so critical. So thank you for that. Other than that, we're just going to try to keep schools open.
The goal and the challenge all at the same time. Any others that have anything they'd like to share? Well,
Rick, just wanted to share, Rick, just one last thing I wanted to
oh,
share.
good. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks so much. We are developing 16 professional development courses for currently serving principals. They should be available to principals in January of next year.
That's excellent. Leadership training is so important.
Tony, what are the format of those? Are they instructor-led? Are they MOOCs? What are they going to be?
They are 7-week courses. They are instructor-led. They're supported. The instructors, they are in Canvas, all in our Canvas learning management system, and then will be taught by currently serving principals across the state.
That's awesome.
Rick, can I bring up one thing really quickly?
Please.
The state library in the last few months, we contracted for a product called Niche Academy that's used by a lot of public libraries, and it's another online learning platform, but it really targets professional development of librarians and library resources. And one of the things that we can do with it is we can contract with outside vendors who work exclusively with Niche Academy for their learning webinars and tutorials. And there's one that we've purchased by Robert Dowd. It's a homeless, he calls it his Homeless Academy, and it's pretty popular around the state. And it has a curriculum of courses to help public librarians best serve the homeless communities in their area. There's a lot of courses on mental health and a lot of the different challenges that people in that community struggle with. And we're also getting a 12-month subscription for the PCI People Connect Institute, which is largely leadership and management. And there is that slant towards public libraries, but we've been kind of playing with the idea of making that more widely accessible for teachers or other state agencies that might be interested in accessing some of those courses for their own professional development. I was kind of wondering how people thought about that, if they thought that there would be some interest in those types of things.
Well, I personally think there'd be interest by multiple constituents. Because it's providing resources for something that is really difficult for communities in that to deal with.
Okay. All right.
Others, your thoughts on that? I mean, probably Salt Lake District, Tiffany, is probably one of the most impacted districts with homeless populations, but certainly I know that with the Family Resource Center, Family Center in Jordan District, a lot of the districts along the Wasatch Front have lots to deal with in this area.
If that were something that would be also applicable to teachers, what would be the best way to reach out to them and let them know that that was available?
Well, one way would be to work with UEN to, I think have UEN, maybe, do, and Rich is online. Certainly he could, with information and that could be probably put on some things on the UEN main page as well, right, Rich?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we can also make use of our social media and our monthly newsletter blasts. So yeah, there are several channels that sounds like it would be a good fit for. Thank you.
And Marie, the University of Utah has an Urban Teacher Institute that focuses on urban issues for teacher education, and I'd be happy to do an introduction.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Thank you. All right, that's all.
And Tiffany mentioned that they have a homeless coordinator in Salt Lake School District. Yeah, she mentioned that in the chat. So.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you all. We are now quite quickly approaching top of the hour, which is our time to conclude. Our next meeting will most likely be on October 8th when meeting with the board in their retreat. But we will keep you posted if they alter that, then our next meeting would be October 1st. And that. So stay tuned. As these are the notes I have from Laura. And that anything you want to add to that, Laura? Okay, so just stay tuned, but most likely October 8th at the retreat. But the board is meeting, I think, next Friday or in 2 weeks. I'm not sure exactly. And they will finalize that. They will finalize their decision on that. But we'll look forward to seeing you all in October. And then we'll have a meeting in the first part of December. And I think it's Wednesday or Thursday of that week, first week of December. And uh, then we'll start we'll get up a new schedule for the coming year. Typically, again, February, April, June, and August, and that's will be looking at those, just keeping that in mind. But I appreciate all of your participation today. Look forward to working with you. And if you have any questions in that, you can certainly reach out to me and or Laura and or any members of the staff that have been with us on this. So thank you all. Have a great rest of the day and have a great weekend as well.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everyone. Trying to get out of here.